Biomarkers have been essential to understanding really many diseases, particularly neurologic diseases in particular. And I've worked in traumatic brain injury and in biomarkers for about 25 years, and that includes both imaging biomarkers and molecular biomarkers. Molecular biomarkers have been the focus of my work more recently, and our goal is to try to understand what happens after the brain is injured from a mechanical impact or a fall or a car accident, and how that sets off a cascade of molecular events. Some of them are beneficial and can promote repair and regeneration, but some of them are not. Some of them may promote further neural injury. And we have an opportunity to intervene with the hope of improving neurologic outcome. And if that's ever going to be helpful, we're going to need biomarkers to help us select patients who may benefit from such therapies, and also to help measure and confirm target engagement in the early stages of development of such therapies, to help us figure things out, such as dose, timing, and duration of therapy. In the absence of such biomarkers, it's going to be very, very difficult to develop such treatments for these very common and disabling diseases. Biomarkers are actually pretty common in other areas of medicine, right? Our colleagues in cardiology use biomarkers extensively to help them decide which therapies to choose for their patients who may have atherosclerosis or myocardial infarctions. And that includes things like troponin, BNP, and frankly, many of the great advances that have been made in cardiology, and the same story is true in oncology, is really directly related to the ability in those fields to identify biomarkers that can be diagnostic, prognostic, and pharmacodynamic. For many years, decades really, we have been assuming that the animal models that we have are good animal models, and they are to some degree. They tell you something, but we've clearly been over-interpreting what they tell us. The fact of the matter is that humans are very heterogeneous. We are all genetically different. We all respond in different ways, and the injury is also very heterogeneous. It's very different from what happens in an experimental model. So we need biomarkers in order to measure the injury, measure the particular mechanism of injury that happens in one particular patient, understand the genetic predisposition and how that patient is going to be responding to any particular therapy, and the biomarkers are really the only way that we're going to be able to get at that. First of all, we're going to have to measure these biomarkers quickly and inexpensively, which means that imaging, which is something that I've worked in a long time, is going to be helpful, but we're going to have to supplement it. Imaging is not going to be the solution in and of itself. Ideally, it should be done in an accessible biological fluid, such as serum or plasma or a blood-derived fluid. In neurology, for many years, we worked on cerebrospinal fluid, and that's just not going to be something that we have very, very ready access to, particularly not in the preventative sphere. This requires an invasive procedure to monitor this. So we're going to have to do this in an accessible biological fluid. And then we're going to have to do it in a reliable way across thousands of labs throughout the world. That's not at all an easy challenge. We're going to have to develop the methods for standardizing and confirming validation. And we're also going to have to understand a lot more about the normal variation of the biomarker levels in a healthy general population, how things like age, gender, pre-existing diabetes, other common diseases influence these biomarker levels if they're ever going to be useful in clinical practice. The federal government in the United States, the National Institutes of Health, as well as the Department of Defense, have made very big investments in discovering biomarkers, not only in my field of traumatic brain injury, but also in the dementia and neurodegenerative disease field and many others. And that has led to also very significant investments being made by industry in private commercial firms that will also lead to our understanding in general populations, in large disease populations. And that's what's going to take in order for us to do clinical trials that are effective and useful in developing new therapies.